Hi everyone, today is Friday, February 14th, 2020. My name is Brian McInerney. I'm the hydrologist here with the National Weather Service in Salt Lake City, Utah. This is the February version of the Utah Water Outlook as presented at the Utah Water Users meeting at the National Weather Service with some snow information thrown in. So when we look at the 2020 water year weather pattern, we start in November. What you find is there was an atmospheric river event. This kind of swirling motion is the jet stream at 25,000 feet. It's actually the GFS model, but it's a good rendition of what it looks like, where all the energy is, where it's red. And you can see it's coming down into southern Utah off the coast, moisture-laden, atmospheric river, and put down 200% snowpack with a couple of these events in southern Utah. Southern Utah started off really well. And then what happened in December, the pattern shifted to more of a northwest flow. If you can see the high, it's insignificant. It's rotating clockwise down by Baja. It's out of the way. So the door's open for that jet stream to come roaring across and start putting down copious amounts of snow, cold air, moisture dynamics, that kind of thing. And then if you move to January, more northwest flow. The high is located out over the Pacific now, kind of northeast of Hawaii. The door's open, more northwest flow. Move into February, and this is what you see again. The key is high pressure is not parked over the western U.S. It's kind of oscillated around. It's smaller. It's no big deal. But when you look at this, what you find is it's been northwest flow since about Thanksgiving. What we anticipate for a storm coming up, again, the high is out over the Pacific. The door's open. More snow coming between the 15th and the 18th of February. So continued snow, continued weather. That's great. And the reason for this, when you look at the weather pattern outlook, what I've done is zoomed in a little bit, tilted the globe forward so you see more of upwards of the poles. If you look kind of in your center area, that's northern Canada. You can see Greenland. This is the flow that's going on as far as air temperature. You can see the winds, but that purple area is the air temperature. What you want is cold air upstream. And if you can conceive of all these little swirls, it's going to rotate counterclockwise. So the area up around northern Greenland is the coldest air. That's going to circulate around in a counterclockwise fashion, pick up in the jet, and then come down into our area, which means we're doing much better as far as the outlook goes. We could have the rest of February and all the way through March with an active pattern with no sign of high pressure. Glenn Merrill pointed this out. He's a meteorologist at the Weather Service, and he and I worked together on these things along with a lot of other stuff. And he seemed to think that we were looking pretty favorable for more active weather. So let's kind of go back and look at our precip anomaly. And when you look at what we've got, we're just going to start with January. We've had some pretty good precip up to this point. We've addressed it in other briefings. I don't want to go back and do that. But January, when you look at this purple color, that's an absence of snow up to about 30%. And that's what you see in southern Utah. And those browns and kind of warm colors indicate less than average precip. But when you look up in the green, in the northern Wasatch, they're doing quite well. And that's directly due to that northwest flow that we've been seeing really most of the year. And then when you look at February up to the 10th, more of the same. Lack of precip. Central and southern Utah. Northern Utah doing really quite well. And that looks to be continued through this next storm. When we look at temperatures, what we find is the whole country really has been a little bit warmer than average, with some parts of Nevada, Oregon, and Idaho being a little bit warmer. But when you look at Utah, we're kind of average for the most part, maybe 1 to 3 degrees above, which is, we'll take it. You always want colder than average during the winter because then you can keep that snowpack at those mid and low elevations. But this isn't so warm that we've had this massive warm-ups like we saw in 2017 where we hit February and we went 16 degrees above average and melted everything off and caused all sorts of problems. It's been average to a little bit warmer, and we'll take it. So now let's take a look at snow. And we look at the Bear River drainage to start with, and this was, I took this on the 10th. It's about 118% of median. What I did was I threw in 2019, which is last year, and the red is average line. So we're going to go through basin by basin, but this is the Bear River drainage. Here's the Weber at 110%. And remember, this is going to get pumped up as we get this next storm system coming through. Six Creeks, 137%. Six Creeks really does quite well in northwest flow. And when you look at what's happened in the cottonwoods, how they've had these massive avalanche cycles go through, it's a direct result of this heavy, dense, wet snow. And they're at 137% of median. 106% for Utah Lake. Some of this is brought down by the Spanish Fork watershed. It's a lower elevation watershed. That typically has been low. But you can see last year, Utah Lake did much better because we were in a more of a southwest flow trajectory. This area did really quite well last year. Doing okay, but not the best. And then the Duchesne at 121. Doing quite well, very similar to last year. And then we move over to the green above Fontenelle. This is the kind of the northern green at 119%. They didn't do very well last year, and they're struggling this year, but they've picked it up since we've gone into this northwest flow pattern. The reason why they weren't doing well is because a lot of our storms before that would come down in this northwest trajectory but kind of miss the green, or we had that southwest trajectory off the coast with those atmospheric rivers gracing northern southern Utah. Lake Powell, 109%, and this is kind of the shorter, you can look at the entire greening, the entire Colorado. What I did was took 17 snowtail stations and looked at this, but it's representative, 109%. The severe is at 111. And then when you see the Virgin, you can see what we were talking about. That line straight up right around Halloween, when things really went big for them, they've had two storms. The first one, then it tapered off. Then the next vertical line up was the second one. And really, there hasn't been much activity at all somewhere around the third week of December, and it's been pretty dry. However, there are at 132% from two events, which indicates just how potent those events are. So when you look at this, the basin average snowpack for February, and we put it kind of in a graphical look, this is what you see for the most part. And this is from February, early February. These numbers might just be shifted a little bit because I took the other ones off from the 10th, but it gives you a feel that the entire state is doing really quite well. Interestingly enough, the Virgin is at the best the beginning of February, yet they still haven't seen much activity since then. So now let's go into the water supply. The actual forecast made by the Colorado River Basin Forecast Center. And what we'll do is we'll start with Woodruff Narrows, and then we'll look at up around Stewart Dam. Sorry. So we'll start with Woodruff Narrows, and the forecast, the official forecast is 93% of average, 102% median. But you look at that little blue line that kind of squiggles around. That's the ESP model that the river forecast uses, and it's trending upwards, and it's trending upwards for a lot of northern area places. Now we're at Stewart Dam. And what you find is 95% of average or 148% median. So the bear is doing pretty good. Not great, but we'll take it. Now we'll look at Oakley, East Canyon, and then up in Pineview. And what you find is Oakley is at 92% of average, 93% median. That will pick up here in a bit with our next storm. East Canyon at 107% average, 112% median. And notice how the numbers are less for the water supply forecast as it is from the snow numbers, and that's due to the really dry soils that are underlying the snowpack. The model indicates that we're going to have some losses as we try and fill those pore spaces. So that's what's going on when you see these lesser forecasts. And then East Canyon, 107%, 112% median, and then Ogden at Pineview at 90% average, 104% median. Now we'll move down to Six Creeks, and we'll look at Little Cottonwood, and then we'll look at City Creek, and we'll start with Little Cottonwood at 103% average, 111% median. And you can see how the model has jumped up pretty significant during this time. And then we'll look at City Creek at 88% average, 115% median. Moving over to Utah Lake, we'll look at two places, Woodland, and then up into Spanish Fork. We'll start with Woodland. On the Provo, it's up in the headwaters at 100% average at 99% median. And then the Spanish Fork near Castilla at 68% and 100% median. So this area is a little low, and that's due to the low elevation of the watershed, and it also is not favoring southwest flow. These things come into play. Over in the Duchesne, we'll look at 3 points, Soldier Summit, Strawberry, Tabiona, and then Knight's Diversion. And so let's start with Strawberry Reservoir at 70% average, 104% median. Duchesne and Tabiona, 93% average, 106% median. kind of as we slide down into central Utah, you notice the model is trending more of the same instead of that uptake, and that's directly due to what we've seen with that northwest flow favoring the Wasatch Front. And now we're down into central Utah, and it's kind of in the middle before you get down south. Night's diversion, 94% average, 105% median. And now we'll go to the price, and we'll look at 2 points there, Joe's Valley, and then Schofield. And we'll start with Schofield, looking at 85% average, 100% median. Kind of about the same. The model's been trending really since early December, pretty flat, but still doing okay. 95% average, 115% median. I mean, we're talking about average numbers, which is, we'll take that any day when you think of some of the rough years we've been through. Upper Green, we'll look at Green River and then down at Flaming Gorge. Green River at 86% average, 99% median. And then inflow to Flaming Gorge, 89% average, 105% median. And then Lake Powell, we'll look at Cisco on the border of Colorado and Utah, and then Lake Powell itself, inflow. Cisco at 82% average, 93% median. And then Lake Powell at 80% average, 88% median. And then the severe, we'll look at Hatch to start, and then Paiute Reservoir, inflow. Hatch at 104% average, 139% median. And what you find is the model's kind of tapering off. It jumped up pretty big in December and January, and now it's just kind of leveling off. But we're still got some pretty good numbers for the severe. And then inflow to Paiute Reservoir at 132% and 183% median. So quite a good forecast coming for those areas. Now at the Virgin, we'll look at Littlefield at the outlet, and then up in Virgin at the headwaters. And we'll start at the Virgin, 100% average, 141% median. And you can see the model has just remained flat. They got such a large volume of snow early, and it's just been kind of sitting there. So the forecast hasn't changed a whole lot. And then when you look at Littlefield at 97% average, 160% median, and you look at that January forecast, the possibility, the range, if it would have kept going in that southwest trajectory, this is the possibilities that we could have had. Some really good water coming into this area. It went early, it stopped, and now the forecast has reflected that. And if you look at the water supply in more of a graphical format, you see the numbers are less than the snow numbers, but still very healthy all around. Maybe south central Utah, not so much, and 80% in the Lake Powell. But I think overall these numbers are doable. Our reservoirs are in really good shape right now throughout the state. In fact, we're starting to release a little bit of water in some of the northern areas just to kind of make room for the forecast, with the possibility that things do look very active all the way through February and March. We don't look to be ridging out anytime soon. Now, when you look at the drought picture, this is December 31st. We had some pretty big wide swatches in Utah of drought, from anywhere from abnormally dry to moderate to severe drought. And that was December, and you think, well, since it's been snowing, it's so active. But this is where we are. Really not a whole lot of change there. We're still mostly in moderate drought throughout the west, or Utah. But we'll find, I think, as we continue with this active pattern, the water supply picture looks better. These numbers will improve over time. So there you have it. This is Brian McInerney. There's my contact info. You can give me a call. You can give me an email. And if you need any additional data or forecasts or any insight, give me a call and we can chat. Otherwise, I hope you're having a nice day, and thanks for taking the time to listen to this. We'll see you.